family of five, seemingly living the American dream, until one fateful day when the shadows lurking behind closed doors unveiled a chilling truth. The Todt family's seemingly idyllic existence will make your blood run cold. What started off as a picturesque family portrait soon morphed into a nightmare. Welcome back, everyone, to True Crime Desk. I'm here with my sister and co-host, Maria.
Hi, everybody.
And today we're going to go over the Anthony Todt case. Now, this is a little bit older, and it's one I've had on my docket for a while. So I wanted to get it done now. It's if you're not familiar with this case, his performance on the stand is legendary, in my opinion. It's something I've never seen before, and it's a classic. So you're pretty much familiar with this case a little bit, at least, right?
I definitely am, and I agree with you. It definitely is a classic. It's something to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Anthony Todt, in 1980, his father, which is a very unique thing that I found out, his father hired one of his lovers to try to K his mom, Loretta. And the person that he hired had strict orders not to harm anybody but his wife at the time, Loretta. Now, she was shot in the head, but she survived. And Anthony Todt witnessed all this. So I found that out, and I found that it's definitely not a good way to be raised, I guess I'd say.
That is a shocker to me. I did not know that. That answers a lot of questions about the person that he is. It makes a lot of sense. Once we get into this case, it'll make a lot of sense to you guys as well.
Yeah, Anthony, when he was in school, when he was in college, he met a lady named Megan, and they got married. And she actually had a master's degree in physical therapy. She was a physical therapist, and he did too. So they got married pretty quick. And then they also had 4 children. And after they had the 4 children, Megan decided to be a stay-at-home mom, which is not that unusual.
I think that's something to be applauded. Being a stay-at-home mom, it's great that she was able to do so. But I did not know that they had the same things in common.
Yeah, they did.
That was something I did not know, because I seen the case, but I didn't hear that part.
Yeah. Now they had 4 children. One was Alec, 13, Tyler was 11, and Zoe was 4. And they lived in Florida at the time. Now they had a clinic in Connecticut, and Anthony would fly from Connecticut back to Florida on the weekends so they could spend time together. And from everything I've read and researched, the children were involved in a lot of sports and stuff, and they kept themselves pretty active. And Anthony was also a coach, and he used to work with disabled children as well. So was he masking his real self, or was he actually doing something decent just to do something decent?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure that you could, I don't know. To me, I would say maybe masking, because I don't know how you could do the things that he did, which we'll talk about, and be a decent person at all. So, yep, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Excuse me.
I think that you have to have that in you, in my opinion. I don't think that there could be cases where someone is attacking you and you snap in that situation, but the things that he has done, or we're going to talk about what he did, is you have to have that in you, in my opinion, to be able to do that kind of stuff. That's just my opinion. In 2017, he claims that she got Lyme disease when she was bitten by a tick when they were at Disney World. Now, that's according to him, and we don't know whether that's true or not, whether she, got it for being bitten. We did know that she was ill. And he said from that point forward that her whole personality changed. She was depressed and isolated herself and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's the beginning of a narrative, or if it actually happened.
Well, I don't know if it actually happened either. But I do know when Lyme disease can really be something that can really put you out. It will get you depressed and things, because you don't seem to get better. And a lot of times people don't know at first what's even wrong with you. So if she did have it, I can understand her getting depressed and things like that, and getting more ill, but we don't know if that's a fact or not.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. Now that we know that they moved from Connecticut to Celebration, Florida, which is kind of unique and unique name. And they, after living in Connecticut for several years, now Anthony continued to go from Connecticut to Florida, like I said earlier, to be at the clinic. But the people in that area said that they were more outgoing, but when they were in Celebration, they were kind of withdrawn and they kind of stayed to themselves, and people didn't see him as much. So I don't know why that is, but it's just kind of what happened.
Yeah, it sounded like it was a huge switch from
Yes.
outgoing and everybody liked you and the kids were out and about and things like that to the total opposite. So that is very interesting why that occurred.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah,
It's a complete change from where they were doing before.
right.
So something is going on,
Right. Now, was it because she
because
was sick and she really was
yeah,
ill and that's why that happened, or was it something else?
yeah. I mean, I get that it could be because she's sick, but what about the kids? I mean, kids are going to want to be in things. They're going to want to do things, and keeping them indoors, and that's not easy to do. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Even though nowadays most kids they have their phone or their tablet, they're not like I was or you and I when we grew up. We were always out riding bikes, and we didn't have
Right.
all that stuff, so we were always outside and
Yeah.
never wanted to come in. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I can kind of understand it from her point, but you think maybe she would get him involved in the stuff and have somebody help her, because it's the kids thing. It's kind of odd for me that they were kind of like secluded in their house and very
Correct.
private all of a sudden.
Correct. And he moved them, they moved to a different location and became that way. So yeah, it seems like,
Exactly.
yeah, seems like
Exactly.
something
And of
going
course,
on.
he's flying back and forth, so who knows what he's doing when he's over there.
Yeah.
There's a separation between them as well.
Correct.
Now, in 2019, Anthony gained a significant amount of weight. And also in 2019, he discovered that he was double charging his patients. Shocker. It seems to happen all the time. These people that have these small clinics, I noticed that it's an ongoing thing, as at some point they're doing some shady stuff when it comes to billing.
That's true. That's true. It happens very often. So that after hearing this case, it doesn't surprise me he did that.
Yeah. So he said he said something like he failed to pay $100,000 of debt, and so he was stealing money, according to loans that he had. He was at all these loans, and he just was bad in money, and he's just basically doing fraud. And so that he initially denied it, of course, but then he eventually pled guilty, which is gonna kind of come into play about what happens in the future. So that's kind of odd in itself, don't you think? I mean, you used to work for somebody that did something similar.
Correct, correct. I did. The gentleman had bought the office from an elderly man that was retiring, and he kept the keys. And so I was new, and I was looking for different people's folders, And anyways, long story short, when something needed to be done on the gentleman, his tooth, I was told by the insurance company, oh, well, he's already had that done. No, ma'am, he has not. So I even told my boss, the files are missing. I keep finding files missing. Well, anyways, I talked to him about it. He didn't want to do the right thing. So I just gave him a notice and went on my way. But it
Yeah, you
does
don't want to
happen.
be.
It does happen.
Yeah, you don't want to get involved and start blaming you. And
No, no.
yeah, you want to get clear away from that stuff. You're not doing any of that.
Correct.
Now, in 2019, Christmas of 2019, is that his family members started becoming concerned because they hadn't heard from them for a while. So they called the authorities to go over and see if they can, do a welfare check. And of course, they didn't hear anything or see anything, and they left. And I also know that the family members were not happy about that. But if they don't see anything that's obvious and they don't hear anything, they can't just start breaking down doors. This is the United States of America. They don't do that here. So you have to have just cause or a warrant. So I understand their frustration because, you want something done, but they can only do so much at that point.
Correct. And I mean, for all the police knew, they could have been on vacation, went somewhere on vacation and just didn't tell anybody. So that is true. That is true. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, but that is true.
Yeah. Now the family members said they last seen him in November 22nd, 2018. So even before Christmas, they saw him in Connecticut. That was the last time they remember seeing him.
Oh, okay.
And so that was kind of strange in itself. So that's why they started becoming concerned. Now, I'd say he usually returned to Connecticut from Florida during the winters and enjoyed the snow there, but they weren't sure if he did, or they weren't even sure what was going on. They just know that it was kind of like silent from everybody.
Well, wasn't it near Christmas time as well? And
That's what I
that's
said.
a
That's I'm just saying the last time they remember seeing him was November
right,
22nd, before that Christmas.
right.
And then after that, you know, they didn't hear or see anything from anybody. You know what I mean?
Yep. That would definitely make you, be concerned about family members if you're not hearing from them and can't get a hold of them. I could totally understand. And then being so far away, you'd feel like your hands were tied, and that'd be really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Now in January 13th, 2020, he actually had to send some text messages to some of his family members, which were kind of concerning. So they wanted to go back over there. They wanted to get a warrant for Andy's arrest, because you got to remember that he was supposed to be in court because of this fraud, and then all of a sudden he disappeared. So they're thinking maybe he just disappeared because of that. So at a certain point now, they had had a warrant for his arrest. So that changed the game itself.
Correct, correct. And from my understanding, they did finally find out where he was living, and they did approach the house, and found out
Well, they knew
some
where he was
stuff.
living the first time. The cops went there and checked, so they already knew
Oh,
where they were
that's right.
living.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
It just didn't. They
But
didn't
now
see
they
anything
went
the
with the
first time.
right, right.
And then he was leaving some text messages with his, I think it was his sister, and then they had a warrant out for his arrest for the fraud charges. So that's what was going on. So the authorities they obtained a key from the landlord, and they later obtained entry. Now, when they entered the house, Anthony was holding on to the rail on the second floor and attempting to walk down the stairs. And when asked where his missing family was located, Anthony said that his children might be at a friend's house or at a sleepover, but his wife Megan was upstairs. And then he yelled out Megan, but received no response. And then during the search of the home, deputies found the heavy decomposed bodies of Megan, 13-year-old Mark, or sorry, excuse me, 13-year-old Alec, 11-year-old Tyler, and 4-year-old Zoe in the master bedroom, and they were all covered in blankets, so they're all in one room together. So it was quite a shock to them to go in there, and they were badly decomposed. So I'm sure they smelt it probably before they saw anything.
Yeah, I bet they smelled when they opened that door.
Yep.
And I wasn't aware that they were all in the same room. I was aware that they found the bodies, the decomposed people, but I wasn't aware that they were all in the room. That's just so crazy and creepy.
Yeah, and one of the things that's very unique. Well, I know unique, but one of the things in this trial I know that happened is that the judge said that the jurors were going to be allowed to see the pictures. Now, that's not a win for them in a sense, because they have to see that the horrible stuff. But that was a ruling that was in there. I know that for sure. So I know that couldn't be easy. That's haunting them for the rest of their life.
I don't think I'd want to see anything like that, because I don't think I'd be able to sleep after that. It'd stick in my head. That's just horrible.
Yeah, and they were all SD'd in their stomach and suffocated as well. So the Orange County coroner said that was Megan. They were stabbed, and they had some Benadryl in them as well. So he basically drugged them, and then proceeded to SD them in the stomach. And I think Megan was like twice, 2, 3 times on her, and each of the boys was one. The children were just one, but he had drugged them with Benadryl first, because he's just a coward all the way around.
I I just can't even understand how anybody could hurt a person, let alone their own children, their own family members. And I don't. He is a coward. He's definitely a coward.
Yeah, and I don't think authorities never were able to determine what the weapon was, other than something sharp like a knife, obviously. But as far as having the actual weapon, I don't think that they ever had that. Now he said that he also wanted to kill himself or commit self harm, so he gave himself Benadryl, but it didn't work. But that's that same old story. It's like, oh, I wanted, it's like it's funny how you can't succeed when it comes to you, but everybody else
Correct.
they're gone. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Now he was arrested on 4 counts of M, and during his interrogation, which is another classic, you got to see that as well. He goes and says a lot of stuff that he actually retracts. So did you see any of the interrogation? Did you see
I
any
did.
video on this at
I
all?
did see the interrogation. It made me ill. He literally sat there and described each and every child and each and everything he did in detail and just talked like you and I are talking, like no big deal. Explained every little thing in detail. And then he also explained how he also unalived their dog as well. And in detail. Um,
Yeah, right.
I never seen anything like it. It was sickening.
Yeah, his whole attitude and just like it's just having a normal conversation about a ball
Correct.
game or something. It's ridiculous. I don't understand it.
Correct.
I just if you I guess if you have a normal I guess if you're normal, you're never going to understand this kind of stuff, and that's good because
Right.
if it just makes no sense to you and it really disgusts you, that means you're a good person, in my opinion. Now it says Anthony also claimed that he and Megan had agreed to K the entire family. That's what his claim was, and everybody needed to D in order to pass over to the other side together. Anthony said that he and his wife talked to the children about D'ing and said that the children told them, "We want to D with you." Now, come on, seriously? You're going to sit there and tell the kids about not unaliving everybody and they say, I want to do, come on, what a
Right.
joke. What an insult. So now you do this to everybody and now you're defaming their memory and everything right on top of it.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and he proceeded to um say that it was honestly he was saying it was her idea and that she was into some kind of um stuff regarding, passing and going over to the other side and all kinds of things like that. And that so he was putting it all on her. It was her idea and they
Exactly.
were on it all do it together and this, that, and the other. He he couldn't keep his story straight to be honest with you, as you'll continue to
Yeah, and
talk
I keep
about
in
here.
mind this is his first story. This is what he's telling them.
Right.
It says the youngest child, 4-year-old Zoe, was the first to be K'd, he said. Anthony then told the detectives that he sat on his daughter's bed for hours before he initially put a pillow over her face, basically, so she couldn't breathe, with a pillow. So that's basically what he did. But he sat in bed for hours. I mean, just think how haunting that is. You're sitting on the side of your daughter's bed thinking about putting a pillow over her head. I mean, what? I mean, I just don't understand it. Seriously.
That's what kind of psycho can I
That's not
don't
even
know.
human.
It's not. I mean, it's just like it's not. I mean, you look at these little beautiful children. You just look
Your
at a little
own.
child's face. You just
Yeah,
you see it.
exactly.
And I don't know. I don't get it. I'll never understand that stuff.
Yeah, he said I needed to save her soul. I wanted her I wanted her to be with us. So in other words, she's going to be gone, then they're going to be gone, and I'm going to join them. It's like, but it's always convenient how it's always everybody's before you, and then you're going to be.
Oh,
But then it didn't work with you. You're still around. It's always the
right.
same BS story.
It is always the same story. Yep. He brags later about how he has all this knowledge about different things and how fast it would take to unalive yourself and things like that. And
Yeah,
but he couldn't do it to himself. He's so full of crap.
yeah. That's the other thing when he's on the stand. Like I said, if you guys ever see that video, is that he's a physical therapist, but he thinks he's Mister MD. He thinks he's a full on doctor. He's using all these big words.
Yep.
I mean, you just have to see that interrogation. So after you watch this, of course, you go check that out because it is something else. A classic, but in a bad way. But this guy's a clown he has everything but the nose and the big shoes.
Right. Well, I
I
mean, if you
mean,
really want to get a good watch the him on that trial. If you don't want to
yep,
watch the whole trial, you can actually go to the behavior panel, which I love, and they actually are showing the body language part of it. And oh my goodness, it's something to see. So I agree with Richard. It's something you want. I mean, everyone needs to see that type of thing to see what a crazy person is.
yeah. If true crime is your thing, which I'd imagine it is, if you're watching this, it's a must watch for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
it says he SD'd and covered their face with both of his sons and claimed that his wife SD'd herself in the abdomen. Now he's saying that she hit herself. She did it to herself, basically. That's what his thing is.
First of all, you know how
And when she,
painful that would be to try
yeah,
and do something to yourself like that, and then the way he explained the scenario is so baloney, so full of
yeah, it's like
crud.
that person that died from stabbing themselves in the back 10 times, so they back into a knife ten
Right?
times.
What
It's
the
that kind of scenario.
heck?
What a joke. Yeah, it says when she failed to K herself, he said he put something, he stopped her from breathing with it over her mouth with a pillow, just like he did to his child. Now, I'm sorry if it sounds weird, but certain words you can't use on YouTube, so I'm trying to not say them.
Right. Right.
Now, he says when everyone was deed, he told the detectives that he took all their bodies and placed them into the master bedroom so they'd all be together. Anthony told the detectives that he wanted to join his family members on the other side. Quote, that's where I want to be. So once again, they're all going to go and he's just going to join them, but for some reason you're still around. So what happened? What happened, Mr. MD wannabe?
Right.
No, that's pretty good.
Right. That was really good. Yeah, he's just a piece of work, I tell you. He honestly makes me sick. It's just a horrible story of, this innocent family, losing their lives for no reason, no reason. Just some sicko.
No, there's never a reason for this, but I know what you mean by that. I don't know, just it's unbelievable what people are capable of doing to other people. It's
I
just
agree.
shocking. No
I
matter how
agree.
old you get, you never get used to this kind of behavior.
Correct.
He said that the children were K'd before Christmas, meaning he was living with the bodies for weeks. That's a whole other level.
Exactly. That's another thing. What? Uh, yeah. Yeah.
Now when he's on the stand, so after the state rested their case, the defense began by calling Anthony to the stand. That was the first thing they did, is call him to the stand. So we're talking about that's we're glad that they did. I'm not surprised he did because he just thinks he's the smartest guy in the room.
Yes, he
And
does.
he wants to prove it. In his battle with the defense attorney, with the prosecutor, excuse me, he couldn't stand her. It was very obvious. I think it's because she's a woman, and he just thinks
I
he's
wouldn't
better than
doubt
her.
it.
I really
It,
believe that was part of it.
it was interesting because he had a certain demeanor when he was talking to the defense attorney, and oh, poor Miyamai with his fake crying, and it was just, and then excuse that, I shouldn't say that. It was ridiculous. And but then when the prosecutors were talking to him and asking questions, oh my goodness, his demeanor changed, and yeah, and facial changed, and he even was talking back to her, and she's like, you don't
Yeah,
ask me questions. So it's like, once again, it's something to see. It's something to see.
yeah. So you look for the word smug or condescending, you'll see his face in the dictionary because
That's for
it's
sure.
exactly what it is. Now, Anthony said when Megan started to get sick from Lyme disease, she became depressed and she suffered a miscarriage that as well. Now I don't know whether that's true or not. Like I said, this is what he was saying. Said she began to practice Hinduism based religion with an alternative, with an afterlife component. So in other words, I think that's self-explanatory. It's not easy for me to read, but I think it's self-explanatory. He claimed that he had got home sometime between December 14th and December 18th of 2019, which is when he said that Megan told him that she K'd the children, the kids, and he also said that one day that he came home and Megan showed him a self-harm note. So once again, he's blaming it all on her. It's all her idea. So his story's completely changed now. He's on the stand.
Right. And then also when he would talk about it if you were to come home, okay, if you were to come home and your spouse had harmed your children, you're not going to just go, oh, like no big deal. You'd freak out. What do you mean? And you want to go, where are they? And
Right.
you would freak out. He was so ridiculous. His stories were so ridiculous. It didn't make any sense, and you could just tell he was just lying out of his teeth.
Yeah, no, he said, quote, Zoe is my little angel. That's my first one. That's the first one I went to. So your little angel is the first one you went to. Oh, excuse me, end quote, by the way. Like, it's so important. This guy's a scumbag. And he's pointing out how as much his daughter is his little angel, as he proceeds to do the unthinkable. It's just, I just don't understand it. It's completely ridiculous. What world is this guy living in?
I have no idea.
He went on to describe finding all three children deed, and then seeing Megan SD'd herself on the bed. So he came home and all the kids were gone. And then when he was there, because she was alive when he first got there, according to him, and then she proceeded to stick herself in the stomach. He said he yelled for help out of the window, but he couldn't. He didn't want to find help. He didn't leave to find help. Instead, he began locking the cell. He began looking for the cell phone. Sorry. So he basically began looking for the cell phone. So he didn't leave, and he yelled for help. She hid the cell phones, according to him. So he can't. I guess he hasn't figured out how to turn a knob and open the door and go outside.
Right. He also that point when he's speaking, he was saying how I know how long it takes for someone to for then the unalive once their blood comes out, that kind of thing. I know this and I know that, so I knew I had to find those phones or some ridiculous thing like that. And him saying that he looked and yelled out the window. Well, he also turned around and said that they lived in the middle of nowhere. So who's he yelling out the window to? You know, like I said, his stories never made any sense. And he also forgot to say, what happened to the dog if his wife did it.
Yeah,
he left that part out. Yeah,
yeah, and he also claimed that he thought his best chance was to get her to tell him where the phones were. So he was going to stay with her to try to get her to tell where the phones were. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It's just so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. Exactly, exactly. And and he was literally talking to her. This is what he was saying. And he was literally talking to her like I'm talking to you, while she was stabbing and moving it to a different direction because it wasn't working. Just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, said that she was trying to unalive herself because she wanted to be with her kids. And he's just standing there, and in the meantime, he's saying, "Where's the phone? Where's the phone?"
Right. How about run over there and take the knife away? How about doing that? It's so insane.
Anybody with a brain can tell you this doesn't make any sense. That's why it's ridiculous. He said here, quote, "I couldn't help my wife pass. I felt like a failure." Which, you're feeling right on that one because you're the biggest failure around. "I wasn't there the night my kids died." So once again, he's claiming he wasn't there after his interrogation says, according to him, that he was there and they did it all. So I don't know how he plans to explain that away. I think he says he didn't remember any of it.
I don't remember
amnesia BS.
Exactly. He said he didn't remember anything that happened from the time the police officers showed up at his house until like later on or something. Now, when the police officers did show up, like you mentioned, he was standing there at the top of the stairs, like holding on to the railing. He was out of it. I think that it was probably good that he was out of it because he told the truth at that time of what he actually did.
Yeah. Now, he later said that Megan had blood on her shirt, and after I saw a few uncovered wounds on her, and I went to discover that the kids. He saw some blood on her shirt, so he went around and he discovered his kids. According to him, once again, this is according to him on the stand. It's according to him on the stand. Not there's interrogation, which is completely different.
Right.
Said I went into the rooms and found them deed. When he was asked about the interview and the statements, the contradictory. I guess that's how you say it.
Contradictory
statements that he said in the interview. In his statement, he said that it was 2 years ago, and he was likely taking responsibility for his wife and was trying to cover it up for her. So his excuse for the whole thing is that he was just making it all up. I think I just said that, making it all up and saying it was her fault. Because he's a class act. I mean, don't forget, this guy is the father and husband of the year. So that's why he's just such a good guy.
Well, another thing was when he was in jail, they had a phone conversation that when he was talking to his sister, I believe it was, and he was saying, "Oh, I actually didn't do this, and I'm trying to protect my wife, and blah 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 blah." And he did all that. Well, we all know why he did that because he knew that he was being heard. So then after that is when, and he says, "And I'll protect her to the end," is what I remember him saying that. Um, and then of course, when it came to the trial, it was a total opposite.
I know this is a little maybe a stretch, but in my opinion, when you're around people that always claim, I'm the happy married or the best marriage, and when they're always telling you that kind of stuff, is because they don't believe it or it's not true.
Right.
They don't have to tell you that if it's true. So when they're always saying, "Oh, the love of my life," or "I loved her," "I'm doing this," "I'm doing that," they're going over it. They wouldn't have to tell you. Just So when they say that, it doesn't make any sense. Now, we didn't mention that he actually K'd their dog too, which Breezy. So that's a whole other level there. I mean, this guy is a piece of crap from the beginning all the way through.
Yep. Yes,
There's a special place for him.
There is.
That's for sure, in my opinion.
My opinion as well.
Yeah. So now, of course, he was found guilty. Of course, it says on Thursday night, April 15th, the jury found him guilty of killing his wife Megan and their three children, Alec, Tyler, and Zoe, and Breezy the dog. Now, before sentencing, Cindy Cohen, Megan's aunt, spoke to the court about Megan and the kids. She described Megan as a kind, gentle, and empathetic, and her kids are more talented and warm. There's no doubt in my mind that that's all true. Everything I've saw and read is that they were good kids. They're just kids, just being kids. And she was a good person. She was a therapist, like I said, before when they met. And she did all that for a while, and her patients, I know they liked her. And she was a stay-at-home mom, so she was dedicated to her children. So we know she was a good person.
Correct.
That's without question.
Correct.
So she continued saying that the rest of the family misses Megan and the kids every day, which is, you have to say it. It makes perfect sense. It's completely understandable. So he was found guilty, of course.
And of course, he stood up and professed his innocence and everything.
Oh, of course. He was shaking his head and like in denial. And this guy's just a clown. Like I told you, he really is. I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah, he is.
I agree. He was sickening. I mean, it was hard to watch. It was so blatantly ridiculous, him on the stand, that even the behavior panel that I mentioned earlier would compare him to Amber Heard when she was on the stand, which I thought was really hilarious.
Yeah, not that she's a killer. He just saying some of the
just how
over the top
you
stuff.
could tell they were over the top with their talking and things they were saying, that you could tell they weren't being honest. They weren't being truthful. Yeah. Blatantly weren't being truthful.
Yeah. So let's be clear here. Amber Heard, it might be in some people's opinion a bad person, but she's not a killer. She's not a care. No. Sorry, and she's not even. We're not saying that at all. No,
not at all. No, just about the line.
Yeah, just about some of the. Some of the other things. So we'll make that clear because we're not claiming that, and we're not saying any of that. Now, Judge Keith Karsten sentenced Anthony to 4 life sentences for Emming, as well as a maximum sentence for cruelty to animals, which is probably like 5 years. It's a joke what you can get away with. I would thought about getting into that type of law enforcement work, and I just know that I wouldn't be able to handle that. I would do things I couldn't, because I would have zero tolerance for these people. So it'd be hard for me to get them from point A to point B without them, accidentally tripping. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I have zero tolerance when it comes to that kind of stuff.
It bothered me, which maybe a lot of people would think it's silly, but it bothered me that they said animal abuse. Really? Because he unalived the animal. That's more than abuse. But I don't know. Those things need to change as well, but that's a different story.
Yeah, that's for sure. So it says here, quote the judge. What did I leave off? Sentence them.
Yep.
Judge Keith A. Karsten said, quote, a jury has unanimously determined after listening to the evidence that you, Anthony Todt, Anthony John Todt, are a destroyer of worlds, end quote. And then after the verdict was read, he was shaking his head and denying all that stuff because that's just the kind of person he is. And of course, he maintains his innocence. Shocker, that he says he didn't do it. It's pretty obvious he did.
Correct.
I mean, to me, a life sentence is not enough.
No, it's not. And I just don't understand the mentality of people like him. If it was just about the money that he was in debt and all this other crud, file for bankruptcy. People do it all the time. It's like, you don't destroy, like you said, destroy lives. You don't hurt other people. You don't unalive other people. Be a man, stand up, do the right thing,
Yeah, it's kind of odd because I'm not really sure what the motive was in a sense. I mean,
I'm not sure anybody
was stealing
knows.
he was stealing from the clinic that they ran,
Yep.
and he was going to be charged and put in jail. So I'm not sure. I know their relationship probably wasn't, obviously, that wasn't good. But I never found anything that she was going to divorce him, that he had actually beat her in the past.
Well, maybe I never really
So I'm
thought
not really
about
sure.
to ask that question, but maybe he, concoct all this stuff, and in his mind he was going to unalive everybody like he did, and he was going to do that to himself, but he is too much of a chicken that he didn't do it. And then he's like, oh, now here I am, So
But
maybe that was the whole thing. He planned on doing that and doing it to himself, but he just didn't. I don't know.
what would be the point of doing that?
He didn't want to face. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a
Yeah, but
crazy person.
that's him not facing and going to prison, not taking them out as well. I mean, you'd have to be. I can understand it maybe from his perspective. He just want to unalive himself because he don't want to go to jail. He's terrified of what could happen there. But to take that to where everybody else is going to go all together, this doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard of cases that's happened in the past, and people do crazy things that they're not all there.
No,
For
like I said, it's
sure.
always the same scenario. They're the last one around, and for some reason it doesn't work. And now, like you
Right.
said, he was doped up when they had him in the interrogation room and stuff like that. So you have to keep that in mind. He did have the Benadryl in his system, so he definitely was out of it a little bit. But he was clear enough. He's very clear in what he was saying. He was very definitive, and he had it was just, you can tell. So to change it later on is a joke.
Right. He went into full detail, every little aspect of it. So he was well enough to explain all those things.
Right.
Yeah, and I just think he's a sicko. I mean, the whole thing, everything he did, and staying with them all that time, and just the whole thing is absolutely just despicable. I can't even say the word, but yeah.
So that's it. On that note, man, that despicable word that was so easy for her to say. We're gonna close this one out. It's a tough case. It's always tough when it's with kids. So you have everything with this one. You have children, you have a wife, and you have an animal as well. So this pretty much has everything, all the bad stuff all combined.
Correct.
And he's a unique human being. I'm gonna put it that way to be nice. But I think you know what I'm talking about. So you have anything else?
Nope. Just want to thank everyone for watching, and continue to please follow and subscribe, and please leave us some comments. Give us some information of what you'd like to see and what you think of what the videos are.
Yeah, where we can improve things, where, be kind, of course, respectful. Constructive criticism is always warranted. So, all right, guys. So that's going to do it. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember to always mind your surroundings. Bye.
Bye.